So I'm not doing a PowerPoint presentation today. Sometimes I do, but usually I don't. I just like to share stories that I think would be useful. First of all, let me thank the organizers of this event, Adelby, Alex Oni, and her husband Jide, who contacted me and invited me to be part of this. This is very important, and perhaps is even the most important aspect of this issue of the power of the change within to effect a change process. And I want to begin to talk about that topic really from the beginning for me, which is my parents. So, I don't know, my father died a long time ago. Both parents died a long time ago. So likely, most of you do not even remember them, and most of you that were born after they died do not even know them at all. So I'll just say, my father was like this kind of, I don't know how to describe him. It was one of those forces of nature that you see maybe once in 1,000 years. And I was lucky because I was born into his house. And I also feel that my mother was lucky because she was married to him. He was such a beautiful human being. And now that I am myself married and I have my sweet husband, I can even appreciate my father more. I remember, so my father's name was MKO Abiola, and he was a businessman who went into politics, and in the course of this political effort, he lost his life. And my mother, trying to support him, also lost her life. But the good times, which were the most of our lives that they were alive, my father was such a sweet husband. She was not his only wife, she was second wife. He had 4 that were in the house, but many more besides. And this man still managed a situation such that when he entered a room and my mother saw him, her eyes and her whole face would just light up. And my mother would be saying things to me like, Hafsat, your daddy is so handsome. I was even confused. Did she need glasses? So you see, I am wearing glasses. I was confused. I didn't want to be disrespectful. Which one is handsome? She'd be like, you know, your daddy is so handsome. Your daddy, everything your daddy. And you know, which is not to say that everything was rosy. You know, my mom was actually sensationally beautiful. I don't know if anybody here that remembered her. And when my dad married her, I think after a while he started wondering that, because he had promised her when he married her, she was a brilliant student, she had been head girl of her school in Ijebu-Ode. So he had promised her that she would work, she would be able to work. But by the time she had 9 children, 2 died, so we ended up in 7. So the thing about the good news is, you know, he just saw how beautiful his wife was, and he didn't want her to work. He didn't want other men looking, because he trusted her integrity. She was a woman of deep integrity. But you know how men must think. By the time this man will say this, even, you know, there's a day when there may be a disagreement between husband and wife, and let's say my mother goes to work on that day, and then somebody is now trying to toast her just at a moment when she's wondering what kind of husband have I married. So I don't know what my father was thinking. He just didn't want to fulfill the promise. So my mother called us, the children, together. At this point, I think I was in Form 2 in Queen's College, and she called me. She called my older brother Lekon and the children, and she said, "This is what is happening. That I need you to talk to your dad." Now my dad, just as I said to you, we just loved this man. I mean, we just loved him. We loved everything about MKO. You know, the way when he was alive that a lot of Nigerians loved him did not pass how we loved him at home. So we were always happy to talk to him. And the thing with him was that he was always happy to talk to us. So he used to go out, and sometimes he would travel and come back home at midnight or 1 a.m. But he would still come to our rooms and check on us. So we knew that hook or crook we were going to see him. So when he came the next time after my mom had given us this assignment, as soon as I woke up, I held my dad's hand. When I was born, they looked at my face and they said, "This is the face of Mama. This is my grandmother from my dad's side." That I looked exactly like her. So I was her that had come again. This is, you know, how our culture is. So my father had such deep respect for me beyond my age. So when he woke me up that day, I held his hand and I said, "Daddy, Mommy says she wants to work." Then he looked at me. He said, "Can you believe it? Your mother wants to work. The way he said it, as if he was saying she wants to carry cocaine in her room to England and sell it. So we were confused. Daddy, but she wants to work. And then he said, well, what do you think? And since I knew you respected my opinion, me too, I thought about it that, what do I think? And I said, but Daddy, in school, my school friends, some of their mothers are working. It is no problem. Then he said, Then he went away. And then I knew he was going to be thinking about it. No, he was not a wicked man. He was the kindest of men. So we were not surprised when he sat with my mom and negotiated the terms upon which she could work. So we live off Towing Street. My father now said she should get an office on Towing Street or Okwebi or Allen Avenue, so that, I don't know if you know the geography of Ikeja, but this way, there is no way that he's coming home. We cannot stop to see his wife. And then, we had a polygamous home, so there were 4 wives. And my father actually did not insist that the one wife is cooking for 4 weeks, but per week, each wife must cook for 1 week. So my mom must always meet those responsibilities. And to be honest, as a wife, this is a nice thing to do for your husband. So my mother was taking care of the food. Even though she was working, she would come home. We had cooks that took care of food for the children. And maybe on weekends, my mom would take care of our food. But for her husband, in that week, she had the responsibility. The food, she's cooking it with her own hand. And she's serving it for him by herself. Because she knew what he liked. So you can teach the cook, but why bother when you are there? So all of these things, they worked it out, and my father always respected this agreement. I remember when my mom started working in her office, she had a L-shaped desk, and she would sit behind this L-shaped desk. And there was a designer at the time called Nikki Africana, and she used to make clothes almost like this, but a little different. My mom would go, she would buy suits, but with Ankara. She would wait. She would sit behind her desk, and she was working, and she was doing well. But my mother started working in a very disciplined fashion. She earned a lot of money. She was a millionaire in dollars. But we could not compare her success to her husband's success. It was way more successful. But as he was successful, his interest was not ever money. His interest was this deep commitment to Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. And I remember he went into the presidential election in 1993. You all know the story. I don't have to remind us of that story. But what I want to talk to you about now, in part, is that when the crisis started and he saw that the military would not relinquish their hold on power, he now had a decision that he had to make about what to do. And the decision was whether to remain true to the mandate that was given to him, or whether to accept all the oil wells and so many gifts that the military were offering in exchange for him just betraying the mandate. So one day he was in his house, and so lucky by the kind of ceiling we have here, that it's similar to the ceiling in my father's bedroom, which is probably a little bit smaller than this room, but not much. And my mother came into the bedroom and saw her husband. He was on a ladder counting these things. He would count, then he would come down, the tiles on the ceiling, you can see them. He would come down, he would push the ladder, he would come up again, count. So when he came down at one point, my mother took his hand and moved him to the bed. They sat down. Then she said, Okomi, what is wrong? My husband, what is the matter? And he said, Hafsat and Kudi, I feel like I am a person standing in front of a moving train. There is no way that I can come out of this thing. And yet there's no way to betray the mandate that has been given to me. The way he felt that 100,000 plus soldiers, you cannot stand in front of them with words. You have nothing. You don't even have weapons. We're just civilians saying that we have a right to democracy. And the people yet agitating for democracy should not be denied their fundamental rights. So my mother listened to him, and she said, then, MKO, let us do it together. So when my father was finally incarcerated, and they thought my mother was troublesome, so very quickly they stopped her from being able to see her husband. But in that time, my mother did not let him down. He was no longer there to be financing the movement, and we're Nigerians. We have some of our friends from Kenya who are with us, but I suspect the democracy is not too dissimilar, because you have to spend a lot of money. So you remember that conversation that my mother had with my dad? Just in case I start crying, because till today I really still feel very affected by the whole thing. So that conversation she had with him, that we would do it together, and we should remember the conversation that we had years earlier, where she had asked to work. Do you know when this woman started selling her properties? Nobody, she didn't even tell her children. She didn't discuss it with us. She just started selling. There was one piece of land that is right opposite Lagos Travel Inn. She sold it for like 40 million naira at the time. This was like 25 years ago, to help to fund the Oil Workers Union strike. It was the longest strike in the world's history by oil workers, because they refused to support continued military rule. She did so much. And when I talked to her, you know, this woman is probably the kind of woman that we that are very well educated will make fun of, because when my mother should say he, she would say she. You know, all things like this. But you cannot doubt the strength of her integrity and her principles. And you cannot doubt her commitment to people. When she was on BBC, on Voice of America, she would get on Hausa service, speaking Hausa to the people in the north, explaining that this is not Yoruba versus Hausa or North versus South. It's about the greed of a small group trying to oppress all Nigerians. You know, and she kept on fighting. She gave everything for this thing. And my last conversation with her, she was supposed to be coming for my graduation from Harvard University. She was the one that told me to go there. She had written 4 schools for me to apply to, and Harvard was one of them. So I was going to graduate. I was graduating with a magna cum laude, which is not bad, given that my father had been in jail from my 2nd year. You know, and all of this. And so I said, I wanted to talk to her about her coming. She wanted to talk to me about the effort for democracy in Nigeria. And so she said, Hafsat, if you know all what I have been doing, you would be so proud. So I saw that there was clearly an error, there was a problem in my mother's thinking. So I sought quickly to correct this error. I said, Mommy, even when you were at home, I was always proud of you. I don't think it was a week after this call that my mother was killed. It was not even a week, just a matter of days. Then I think about it and I think, does a person like General Abacha have the power to kill Hafsat Abiola? In his wildest dreams, he does not. Because she gave birth to children. And the children, she showed them the way. She was very clear. She was always clear. It is not money. It is impact. It is not status. It is people. What difference do you effect in the lives of people? And so, do I need her to be here holding my hand when I'm giving birth to baby at 6 months because my daughter arrived after 25 weeks and 6 days? Do I need her to be here if my husband is speaking to me in one way that I don't understand? Or do I need her to be here while I'm in Ogun State Cabinet and they're offering me opportunity to do something that I don't think I should do? Or do I need her to be here when she was alive, she was clear who she was? I don't need her to be there all the time. What I needed, she already did, which is that while she was here, she let her family know who she was. She did not prevaricate, she did not go like this and then like this. She was like this. So whatever is happening in my life, I am so clear. Not just me, my sisters, my brothers and I. We just say, but what would mommy say? Or what would daddy say? And it is so clear to us. The problem in Borno started, and we were just watching. We had a long history with the people of Borno, not just because we're so fortunate that Khadija Kamsalam, who is one of their daughters, married into our family. But even before Khadija married into our family, Khadija's father and my father have been very close friends. Inspector General of Police, Officer Kamsalam, and my father were very close friends. And when he died in London following a brief illness, my father raised his body to the airport, delayed the Nigerian Airways flight, that the plane should land 6 hours later, so that among Muslims, 24 hours after death, you should bury, so that the family will have that opportunity to maintain what is Islamically prescribed for us. And when we were asking to marry Khadija, because my brother, if you see Khadija, she'll be with me when we have the break. She's extremely beautiful. She's a trained pilot. You know, she's not dunce. She's really accomplished. And we're just fortunate. But before we could even marry her, the Northerners were saying, Kai, we cannot marry a daughter of the North into that family after everything that happened. That it cannot be done. But my brother was in love. What was to be done? So we were now begging up. We were begging down. And in the end, it was Khadija's mom that had to take the decision because her husband had died. And the mother said, how will I deny to my son, my daughter, that even though I did not give birth to Jamiu, he is as much my son as my own children. And if he has asked for my daughter, I trust that he will take care of her. And they've always trusted us. When we went to Borno for the wedding, it was as if there had been no discussion about whether or not to marry the girl to us. They just came out. They brought us food every morning, afternoon, night. For the whole many days of the celebration, they were there as if it was their idea all along, and not that we had been the one really lobbying them to please consider. You know, and since the marriage, they've been like that. So when I saw the problems in Borno, we were worried. And Amy, Kind's executive director, and I said, we cannot leave the people of Borno to face this problem alone. And I have to also confess to another sentiment that caused me to go to the north, to Borno, to visit them last week, which was simply this. When my father died, he had many titles given to him across Nigeria. One of them is the title of Rashid of Borno, which is the fourth in line to the Shehu, the king of Borno, and it was given to him by the people of Borno. So when he died, the people of Borno, this was independent of the marriage request, contacted us that they want one of our sons to come to assume this title of Rashid of Borno. They knew that the family is not the family that it was before. That financially we were not in the same position. They did not care. They just wanted to honor my father, to continue to give us that respect in the north. So for me, they were not fair weather friends. So I said, you know, let us go, because we should not be fair weather friends with them now. You know, when things are good, I'm happy to eat the kunu aya, kunu gada, this one, masa, bring it, kunu kuka, bring it. Then when there are problems, I'll just sit in my house and I'll be looking and say, the problems of Borno, Kai, is something. No, you cannot solve a problem from a distance. So last week we now flew to Kano because there are no direct flights anymore to Borno. And we took a 6-hour car and we got there. We met with so many of them. So now we have a very clear understanding in our organization about what the challenges are, the efforts that the people are making. If you see the efforts they're making, you will be so proud of them. You know, it's a lot of it, what we see in the press cannot cover the complexity of the issue. And so being there with them, I saw their strength, and I also saw what we can do. Already, Kind has already mobilized about $25,000 to $30,000. I'm hoping that by the end of this month I can do more, because I want to take a trip, which I have to ask my boss for permission, just for 3 days to LA to an event to try to raise more, because we have to offer them solutions. They have real challenges, but we can't be using language, discussion. Only that we can use analysis to identify what actions are to be taken. That's the only language we should be doing. But everything must have action now, because there's an attack on the people. We must respond. We must defend them. We must stand with them. And we must let them know that we're not reducing them to just Muslim or Christian or Kanuri or Bubra or all the different ethnic groups there, that we recognize their humanity. And as Nigerians, we're going to work with them. You know, because today it is Borno, tomorrow it could be anywhere. Because the underbelly of this problem is inequality in Nigeria and unemployment in Nigeria. And please tell me where in Nigeria we don't have this. Please tell me where in Nigeria we do not have inequality and unemployment. And we cannot say it's a Muslim-Christian issue, because the Lord's Resistance Army is there, and they were all Christian. They were all Christian. The highest capital, rape capital in Africa is a nation that is largely 90-something% Christian. Please tell me the name. Congo Kinshasa. It is not just about Islam. So if you want, you can reduce it. If it makes you feel good, do so. But if we want to solve these problems, if we want to recognize the power that each of us has within us, then we cannot be doing the kind of talking that we're seeing a lot of our men doing, which is that this one is at fault, this one is at fault. How does this solve that problem? The one that women can do is the practical one, where we say, so what is to be done? What is required now? How do we solve these problems? Okay, yes, you are saying this one is at fault, this one is at fault, but why do we not make the problem the enemy and everybody works together to solve the problem? You know, this is what women can do, and this is what I'm asking my sisters, my elders, and our daughters to do. It is not just about Chibok. That is why I do not really talk about just Chibok. Even the women, the girls that were kidnapped in Chibok came from many areas around that place. Not just Chibok, because they all gathered from many areas around that place to do the exam there, because it was the least vulnerable place, and they were attacked there. But even before they attacked that Chibok, they've been attacking so many. And it's not just Boko Haram that's been attacking. I don't want to criticize the army. I know they have challenges, but our army, if the American government is challenging the army, you can imagine what information they have that is giving them cause to do that. And when I was in Borno, the women came out and talked to me, and girls, well, there was a 13-year-old girl upon whom a soldier stood on her breast. After raping her, why do you need to stand on her breast? Now, the girl has had 3 years of medical care, and still she's not okay. At this point, she's using traditional medicine because the money for the other kind of medicine has finished. Nigerians, I think it is time that we must make crucial decisions. And the decision we must make is that, aside from being good wives, good daughters, good sisters, good friends, are we ready to be good citizens? And this is the question we have to ask ourselves. Because we are always, you know, especially us, we that are in positions of privilege, we're always asked, and we're always given the opportunity to be a good sister. You know, my brothers are there, they're businessmen. I'm managing the MDG portfolio in Ogun State. It's 2 billion naira per year. We award contracts. On the Quran and on my parents' grace, I've not given one to any member of my family. They can manage on their own. Yes, they're struggling, but all of Nigerians are struggling. And if by the time I'm starting to do that, what is next? You know, that is an abuse of power. But it's actually a minority position. I know I'm running out of time, so I want to clarify for you in a few minutes what I think the core of my message that I want to give to you. Yesterday we heard a poem. I have 5 minutes, so in 5 minutes I'm going to round up. Yesterday we heard a poem. How many of you were there yesterday? So few of you. Is the woman that recited the poem, What Are You Wearing? Is she here?
We're expecting her.
Okay, so I hope she'll recite this poem. There's a strange poem. It's a, what are you wearing? And she starts talking about what you're wearing. Are you wearing this? Are you wearing that? I don't know. So she will have to recite it herself. Now, the issue is this. It's not difficult for us to discuss what we're wearing. We're all here. Like me, I'm wearing now Ankara. It was made for me by Antinike Owonifari. She's a local tailor in Ikeja. She's excellent, and she's not too expensive. So we looked at another one that was very expensive. You know, women, we can do that to manage money. And I said to her, go and copy. So she too, she went to local market, she bought everything, and she made it, because who wants to spend that kind of big money on things? But it looks like big cloth, I mean, it doesn't look like small girl thing. Because I'm coming to speak, I don't want to embarrass the family. So it's clear to you what I'm wearing. But the issue is that when we decide what we're wearing, we also have to decide what we're going to stop wearing. You know, it's not enough to decide what we're wearing. We also have to decide what we're not going to be doing anymore. Okay, so when we're coming out into the public space, are we wearing our family, or are we wearing our goals for Nigeria? You know, am I there in Ogun State representing the Abiola family, or am I there in Ogun State trying to see what I can do for poor pregnant women, for poor children in school, for poor people in general who I may not know, but who are counting on my integrity? You know, it's a decision we have to make. Am I wearing my status, or am I wearing my future, my eternal spirit? This fact that when I die, that spirit must make a report of itself to somebody. And that it cannot lie at this crucial moment. You know, and you know, once you decide that you are wearing that spirit that has to make a report, it actually becomes very clear to you what you cannot wear. It means that you cannot wear any kind of corruption, because how will you explain it? You cannot wear adultery. There's so many things, dishonesty of any form, you can just not wear it, because where will you hide at that crucial time? There's nowhere you will have. And yes, we will make mistakes, and this is normal. But if you make mistakes, pick yourself up and try harder next time. Don't sit on the mistake and say, woe is me, now I must follow the path of the wrongdoers. Even if you, and many people in our society are very wicked with women like that. Men make mistakes, they think, oh, not a big deal. A woman, it is the end of the world. Ignore them. When it is the end of the world, God will call you to him. So until that time, you have the opportunity to change yourself and try again. So you must just keep trying until that final moment. And you must try your best to make an impact. Thank you very much.